There is bird poop all over my boat. So, on this Terra Talks Tuesday, I am going to wash the boat because it's gross. And then I'm going to show you some things that I do inside for my weekly checklist. The next thing I have to do is to clean the sea strainer basket and the air filter for the AC heating unit, and put it all back together and turn it on, and hopefully it works, and check for overboard discharge to make sure it's working. The next thing I have to do is rip the bed apart in order to get to the sea strainer and air conditioning heating unit. So I've thrown all the pillows to the back, and now I'm going to strip the bedding back, remove the cushion so that I can get to that area. On the port side is where my sea strainer basket is that I'm going to clean out. And then on the starboard side, this is not the easiest to do with one hand. This is the AC and heating unit, and I need to take the filter out of it and clean this. And it's really fun to get put back in. It doesn't just slide easily. It's a lot of poking and pushing to get it back in. Alright, so I have the unit turned off while I'm doing this. And I'm gonna open up the hatch. And run the hose down inside. I'm just going to clean it directly in the hole so that way any excess water will drain into the bilge and get pumped out the back of the boat. And it's easier and less mess for me. And I'm about to fall in the hole behind me because I'm being... Whew. All right, you're not going to be able to see this. All right, so I'm going to lift it up. I'm just going to remove the top. It just turns. It should be hand tight. Water's gonna start flowing out, you can hear it. So I'm gonna pull the basket up. And I'm going to spray it with the hose. Put the basket back in. Screw the top back on. Now I'm going to take the air filter out. Like I said, air filters usually come in and out really easily. This one is a pain in the butt. It's caught on something. There we go. Alright, it actually looks pretty clean. And you can see through it. But, yeah, I'm gonna brush it off a little bit, but it's pretty clean. Now the fun thing, putting it back on. This hose is gonna annoy me. I'm done with it. So I'm gonna set that back outside. I'm gonna leave the hatch open though, because the breeze feels really nice. And it allows more light in for me to see where the little grooves are to fit this back in the way it's supposed to be. So, like I said, you would think that this would just slide in nicely, but it doesn't. It fit in there nicely, but overall, it's like so close to the unit and it's kind of rough. Both pieces are kind of rough, so it doesn't like to slide. I hate this thing. It's really a pain. I wish that I could turn it around the other way, because then I would have sticky side and smooth side and it would fit better. God, this is a pain. Have I said that yet? It is. It's a pain. But you gotta fit it behind all the grooves and stuff. And that's where the pain in the butt part comes in. I just gotta fit all the little prongs in. Alright, that side is done. Now to the other side. Just working my hands around the bottom of it to get all the little plastic pieces in. So you'll see it has all these little plastic pieces that stick out like on the side and the bottom. So I have to poke all of those in. All right, she's back on. I don't know if you can see, but I got it back on. And this is why we check. There is no overboard discharge, so I have to go back in and try again. So repeating the process in reverse, I'm gonna turn the power off. So then, the last time this happened, I was sick and not feeling good, and it was kind of toasty, and I did the sea strainer, and I was proud of myself. You can hear the pump is working. But last time I did this, it wasn't getting water to the other side. Because this got pushed down and it was too difficult for it to get to the unit. So I'm gonna try raising it up a little bit and see if that works. And now we have overboard discharge. Yay, everything is working properly again. I am currently filling the port side water tank. It's a pretty easy process, but it's just a little time consuming. So I have this special key that opens the cap, fits in like that, and then you turn it until you get it open. A lot of times I can just do most of it by hand. When this water gets full, you kind of hear a slight difference when it gets near full, and then water will start coming up out of the hole when it's full, and it will also go over the side out of this. Oh, I can hear it. I think I just heard the changing in sound. It should start to come up out of the top soon. Yep, see it's coming up out of the top, and it's coming over the side. So I'm gonna shut that off. And I'm gonna close up the tank. The next thing I have to do in the cabin for my weekly checklist is to turn on all the water sources and let them run at the same time. So I have still been getting some air in my lines, not really sure exactly why, but so I have been turning the water pressure off at the panel when I leave, and I'm just now getting home from work and getting stuff done. So I'm going to turn the water pressure on. Then I'm going to go over here to my sink. Don't mind my lunch dishes there that I haven't got to yet. And I'm going to turn on the water, making sure that I turn the nozzle down, because occasionally I like to save space when I'm working on stuff. I like fold it all up. So I always have to make sure that it's turned toward the drain. So I'm going to turn that on. And then I'm going to go into the head, turn that on as well. So I got that going. And then I also have a shower that I never use because I always shower at the marina. But so I'm going to take the shower head and I am going to pull up on this piece so that it comes out the shower head. And I'm just going to let that run for a little bit. Just important to exercise everything on the boat, make sure it's in working order. So even though I never shower on the boat because I shower at the marina heads, got to make sure everything's working properly. I should probably start like actually letting the water go down into the floor too and turning on the drain, because I have a pump switch for that right here to make sure that that pump is working. But I'm not going to do it on this video, or even tonight for that matter, because it's already getting late. I still have to run, which is why I'm in my run attire, and I have to shower, and I have to cook dinner. So I went and voted today, early voting. Not going to discuss politics on here, but definitely get out and vote. You know, I'm a veteran. I served 4 years of active duty in the Air Force, and so people who serve in the military, usually pretty patriotic people, but also we do what we do or have done what we did for the freedoms, like going out and voting. So no matter who you're for, take the time and get out and do your civic duty of voting. All right, so I think that's ran for long enough. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut that off. I wanna make sure that it's coming back out of the sink once I turned it off, because usually that's automatic, that once you turn it off, it no longer comes out of this piece. I'm gonna let that set in the sink for a while, just 'cause it's got a little couple drips and stuff going on, and I don't want to get my hamper. I don't know if you can even see it because the lighting in here is not that great, but I have a hamper, a laundry hamper that I've set where you would set to take a shower, and it hangs up above that, so I just don't want it dripping on my stuff. There is enough moisture on a boat without adding any additional moisture. I have 2 dehumidifiers. I have a small one in the head, and then I have a larger one down here on the floor, and you would be amazed at the amount of water that it pulls out of the air on this boat. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut the water off at the sink, and then I'm gonna listen to make sure that my freshwater pump actually shuts off. I can usually hear all the sounds and notice differences and make sure things are working. Now that, yep, it just shut off. And that's good. That's good to know, so that you know when something is running and it's not supposed to be, or vice versa. But I will say that when the AC or heat is turned on, the noise of that kind of drowns out all the other noises. And so it's harder to hear that. But I have it turned off today because it wasn't going to be super hot or super cold. And so I just left that shut off during the day. No point in running something that doesn't need to be run and, you know, using extra electricity that I don't need to be using. It's kind of like when you go on vacation and you turn your thermostat up because you're not going to be home, or down depending on the season. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and turn the water pressure off again, even though I'll turn it back on when I'm ready to use the water later. It's just something I like to do. All right, so that is making sure that I have ran water through all of my sources of output on the boat. I don't know if I'm using the correct terminology, but opening up all my water sources. All right, the next step in my checklist is to check and make sure that my bilge pump is working properly. So let's check out my bilge and make sure it's working. All right, this is the panel in my floor where my bilge pump resides. So I'm just gonna take that off, and you see that here is my bilge pump, and down in the bottom, which you probably can't see, let me get some light. Way down in there behind that line, you can kind of see it where the red is. That's my float switch. So my bilge isn't as bad as some people's bilges, but regardless, bilges are usually nasty places where everything drains. So I always make sure that I put on gloves for this next step so that I don't get that nasty, gross water all over my hands. So I'm gonna set the video down while I put on gloves to show you what I do next. All right, so I got on my long glove, and I'm going to reach down in here. And I'm gonna pull up on it and make sure that's coming on and working. And it is. So the float switch, you know, as the level of water gets higher in the bilge, it floats up. And then when it's down, it stops. So when the level gets high enough, it activates the bilge to start working. So the next thing I'm gonna do, because that's working, is I'm gonna take off these nasty gloves, and I'm gonna open up the top. Okay, so I'm just gonna open this up. Should only be hand tight, shouldn't be difficult to do. And I'm gonna lift up the screen, and you can see that it is gross because all of the stuff like hair and dirt that falls, and I really need to clean this. It's been on my list of things to do, but it's also not a super high priority. But all that gunk ends up getting down in the bilge, which then gets picked up as the water gets pumped out. So this needs to be cleaned, and I do this weekly, which I was sick last week, and it makes me wonder if I actually did this. I'm pretty sure I did. But anyway, I've got a wire brush, and I'm just gonna take this over. Sometimes I take it outside. Today I really don't feel like doing that, so I'm probably just gonna clean it in the sink. It's not too bad. That looks like a Christmas tree piece. Anyway, gonna stop the video. Probably won't film this just because it'll be hard. I need both hands, but I'm gonna take this over the sink, rinse this off, and use the brush to get any debris out of the screen. So hopefully I can do this with one hand, but as you can see, I cleaned my screen, and so I'm just gonna set that into the lid. Yeah, I might need two hands, we'll see. I use a glove for this, not because I'm worried about it being dirty, but because the little pieces of metal can stick you sometimes. So as you can see, I got it around the outside. It didn't take long at all once I had two hands, but I've got it around the outside of this. And then I'm gonna go back over. Sorry, I gotta readjust here. So I'm gonna go back over. Screw that back on. Again, just hand tight, not too tight. And then I'm gonna go ahead, even though I have a short glove on, and I'm just gonna check again to make sure that this is working and that nothing is leaking out now that I have put it back on. So I'm gonna do that by, again, going down to my float switch and pulling up on it. It is working and I don't see any leaks. So we are good to go, and that is, oh, there we go. Got it pushed back down. All right, that's that. I'm gonna pick this up, put the cover back on it. That step is done. All right, the last thing that I do for my inside checklist, and this is something that can be done more than weekly, it can even be done daily, is to check temperatures and voltage. So this is my cold storage unit temperature, and I am constantly monitoring it just because it seems to run higher than I would like on average. Now that the temperatures have gone down outside and the water temperatures are dropping, it's been holding relatively around 40, so that's good. But yeah, so constantly checking that. I go over here to the panel and I switch this to the side and make sure that it hits that mark to make sure that my voltage is good. And then I'm gonna do it to the other side. All right, that's looking good. Thumbs up there. I also, and this is another thing that I'm constantly monitoring, is that I check down here and make sure that my battery charger is good to go. I'm not really sure why. I noticed it yesterday because I haven't had to reset it in a while. I haven't had to reset it since the 11th of October. But this side, the house batteries, are the lithium batteries. This is the one that I'm constantly having to reset because it's tripping. But what I don't know, and I don't know that I've seen before, and I need to ask a friend, is the starter battery, which is just a regular 12-volt battery. It's got the green light, which means repair. So I'm not sure. Usually these kind of like go up and down, but I don't know that I've seen it on repair until like last night, and it's still on repair. So I'm not really sure what that means, but repair sounds like a very negative thing to me. So I need to check in on that. Lastly, for my inside weekly checklist, and you don't have to just overlook this mess, this is the aft berth. There is a mattress with no sheets on it right now, but this kind of serves as like my spare bedroom / storage unit, and there is just junk everywhere. And I hate it, but it is what it is. Some of this stuff, like the tools, I need access to, so it would not make sense to take it to a storage unit, which I have a storage unit, but it wouldn't make sense because I need them readily. But anyway, I have to kind of do some boat yoga and get back here and look at my batteries, and you might not be able to see it from in the video. Here, let me zoom in. But you can see that my voltage on my lithium house batteries is 13.2 right now. So that's good. And so when the battery charger does trip, so when I get a trip notice there on the left hand side for my house batteries and I have to reset it, I write down what day and time it happened, and then I also write down my battery voltage and my cold storage temperature, because I wanted to see if there's a connection, and I haven't really found a connection yet, other than if it trips and I don't notice it right away, then voltage slowly drops and temperature slowly goes up. So that concludes my weekly checklist for inside the cabin things to do. I also have an outside checklist, and that includes filling up the water tanks, which I did yesterday, and starting the engine and running the engine for a while so that it can lubricate all the parts of the engine so that it doesn't seize up and from sitting, because I don't tend to get the boat out like I should. A lot of people who have sailboats don't get out and sail as much as they should. I want to, but I also just don't feel comfortable doing that on my own. And anytime my friends come, we're always so focused on like boat projects and helping me do things that I'm learning to do that I haven't got the boat out. It hasn't gotten out for quite a while. I think, honestly, the last time it got out was Flotilla last year, and that was in December. So we're coming up on a year that the boat hasn't got out of the slip, which is not good. Hopefully that'll change. I have a couple of boat neighbors with sailboats, and I hope to, you know, hook up with them and get out on their boats so I can gain some confidence, because I've taken sailing classes before. It's not like I don't know anything, but there's still so much to learn, and I just need to gain confidence and skills so that I can feel able to do that on my own boat. There's also a guy in the marina who has the same model of sailboat as me and almost the same year. It's very similar. I toured his boat once about, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago. And so if I could, he has my contact information, but I don't have his. So I probably need to leave him a note again and say, hey, because he goes out sailing and he does regattas. And so that way, if I could hook up with him, I'm pretty much sailing on my boat, but it's not my boat, you know? It might not seem like a lot, but you know, when these are things that you have to do weekly, and there are other things that I need to do as well, but not necessarily weekly, it can be a lot, because I mean, I'm working, I'm doing the videos, I'm doing side hustles like the education boxes I mentioned last week, and you know, and then just life, running errands, cleaning, doing all of that stuff, food prep. So it can be a lot, but I'm doing it, and I'm learning to troubleshoot. Like just the other day when, you know, I cleaned the sea strainer and then my AC didn't have overboard discharge. I'd just done that like the last time, and so I knew what I did to fix it last time, and it worked. So you learn and you get better, and that's what I'm trying my best to do. I hope you've enjoyed seeing a little bit of what I have to go through every week.